When it comes to job search, we don't start with your resume, we don't start with your LinkedIn. The number one thing we start with is your confidence, how you show up, how you think, and your presence. So I thought, let's do an episode and talk about how I have worked on my confidence and how I'm continuing to work on it. Let's talk about confidence. This is the topic that comes up with my clients every single day because you leveling up to the next level in your career, whether that's seniority, whether that's pay, whether that's responsibility, whether it's all the above, comes with the next level version of you, with the more confident version of you. And confidence is something that with my clients we start working on from day one. So I will be sharing very specific steps and tips that I have been using over the last decade. When I was preparing for this episode, I was reflecting on how that's the feedback that I often get. I get it from my clients who say, well, kind of it's easy for you to do this. It's easy for you to be on. It's easy for you to do networking. It's easy for you to go to events or being on camera. And by the way, if you've been listening to the podcast, one of the things we do in your job search is we record videos, we record looms, we record voice notes. So it's something that I push my clients to do. And they often say, well, it's kind of easy for you to do because you're confident. And it's also something that my mother in law mentioned to me about 6 months ago. We were talking about job search, and she said, well, it's kind of easy for you to do this because you're so confident. And I actually started laughing because I don't see it as that. I'm not someone who is always naturally confident. It is something that I have developed over time. So I pushed my mother in law on that, and she paused and said, you know what? Yeah, I've known you for 5 years, and you are correct. You have changed in the last 5 years, even since I've met you. So, what I offer you to start with is that confidence is a skill. It's something that you can develop, something that you should be developing every single day, month over month, if you want to grow actually both personally and professionally. And how I know that I wasn't always quote unquote naturally confident when I look back at growing up or early in my career, there are a few moments that stand out. So, for example, I used to be a competitive skier, and that was through middle school, high school. And I remember sometimes I would have to call my coach, call him on the phone. And by that point, I would say I was probably, 12, 13, the memory that I have. And I would have to pick up the phone and call him. And that was before we necessarily used cell phones as much. So I would use a landline at home and I would call his landline at his home. And it would be something that I would do. So I would close the door in the room where I was calling from. I would sit down. I would think about exactly what I was going to say. And I would really psych myself up for 20 minutes to pick up the phone and make this call. So it was really, really scary for me to do. Even though that was my coach, it was someone that I've known for, or I had known for a number of years at that point, but it was just very scary for me to do. Another very vivid memory that I have is actually early in business school. So this would have been over a decade ago. And we had a workshop with a communications coach, which, spoiler alert, since then became my friend. And he actually have been involved in my community and he has coached some of our clients. So we've come a very long way. But he did this workshop for us, and there were some interactive exercises, and he gave us a prompt of something to think about, and then he called a few people on the spot and told us to come out front in front of everyone in a big auditorium and speak to the prompt that he just gave us. And I was the first person that he called on. And I remember vividly how that felt and how I just crumbled. I had a few things in my mind, but I just couldn't really say them. And I just remember how awful that felt and how I just didn't feel like I was someone who can do that, who can be in front of, 50, 100 people and just speak on the spot. which, by the way, now is something that I get paid to do and actually really enjoy doing. And I'm just sharing this to show you that I wasn't someone who was, again, naturally confident. But again, I don't even know if naturally confident is really a thing. Now, fast forward to now, as I already mentioned, I get paid to speak on stage. I am confident to speak in front of a small group, a big group, and I have done that on a number of occasions. I have done that at Microsoft. I have done that at big conferences. I have done that at big webinars where we host hundreds of people and they see me in action, they see me speak, they ask me questions. So I'm not just speaking to something that I have prepared, but I'm also answering things on the spot. And it took time to get there. I'm also on video every single day, and I'm very confident doing that. I coach our clients every single day. They're very senior professionals with a lot of experience, with experience leading big teams and big budgets and working with big name companies. And I don't hesitate doing that for a second. I've also made big moves in my career, like quitting my job with no plan slash no job lined up and having the confidence that I can figure it out. I can figure out my next move. I have moved cities and countries multiple times. I have quit my job to go all in on my business a few years ago. So I have really come a long way. So when I reflect back, I believe there are five major mindset shifts and beliefs and kind of overall the way I approach my life and my skills that has really helped me come such a long way in really a short period of time and feel actually very confident in myself, in my skin, in me being able to get better and learn. So let's talk through it. Number one, what has worked for me, and I really truly believe is the foundation of getting more confident at anything is willingness to try before you know how to do something. I've talked quite a bit about my networking journey on this podcast before, but when I started networking, I had no idea what it even was. I didn't really even know what the word networking really meant, what I was trying to achieve. I just learned in business school that that is something that I should be doing. I should be meeting people. And I just went with it, even though, again, I was not good at it. It was not really leading to a lot of results. It was leading to some results, but not really to as much results as it could have because I didn't know how to do it. And then I also, as you probably already know, ended up doing networking for a living in enterprise sales, where I was paid to find and meet and connect with very senior executives, build a relationship with them, and then get them to hire for me. So sell to them, essentially. So didn't know how to do that and didn't know what it was, but I was willing to try it. Another example here I have is very early on in my career. I was just fresh out of business school. I was still in my early 20s and I was working in the CPA accounting world. I was working with very closely with the big four firms. And part of my role involved mitigating conversations slash negotiations between the four big four firms. So EY, PwC, Deloitte, and KPMG. And that meant that I was leading a meeting with four managing partners from those four firms and four recruiting partners from those four firms. So I had eight very senior executives in the room, all men, by the way. And it was me in my early 20s. And it was terrifying. And by the way, it wasn't something that I was supposed to be doing before me in that role. Actually, my VP used to do that, but my VP trusted me and said, "Hey, I think you're ready. I think you can do this." And again, that was terrifying. I remember I had this blazer, and that was my favorite blazer, the one that I felt really good in. So I would try to wear it to those big meetings, and I would prepare proactively and ahead of time because I knew I would sweat so much. And I'm not a sweaty person, but I was just terrified and so nervous. And I don't believe some of those first meetings went really well. And there was a lot of pushback, and I didn't know how to handle that. But I was willing to say yes to doing something that was so scary, so outside of my comfort zone. And it felt like such a reach from where I was with my skills and where I was in my seniority and where I was in my career. But I was willing to try. And same goes for quitting my job or starting a podcast or starting a business or starting to network. It was just willingness to try. That leads me to number two, having people in my life who believed in me. So that example of my former boss, a VP, where she trusted me and she saw something in me and she believed in me and she gave me that boost that I needed at that point to say, hey, I know you can do this. I see this in you. You can do this. I'm there for you if you need me, but you can do this. You can lead this meeting with these four partners who are not even twice, probably more than twice your age. You can do it. And hearing that from someone who I trusted, who had more experience and more expertise than me, reminding me that you can do this, I have the confidence in you, gave me that confidence. And when I think, for example, of my clients right now, oftentimes for them, it's me. It's me who gives them that confidence when they're sending their first video or recording their first video, or they have their first really big networking meeting with, someone who is C-level, or they have a really big dream interview with a panel of very senior people and they feel very uncomfortable. So I am someone who helps them reflect back on their journey, on what they bring to the table, how far they have come since I've even known them. Sometimes it's weeks, sometimes it's months, to help them see what I see in them and to help them feel more confident in themselves. So they have this willingness to try and do something that's scary. Which now brings me to number three, and that is being very mindful and getting support and getting coaching. What do I mean by that? I believe that the biggest leap in my career, in my income, has started and has happened once I started getting coaching in different areas of my life, both life coaching and business coaching and career coaching, because that helped me develop a lot of tools that I use every single day. So it helped me to become a lot more mindful of the triggers that I have, of the limiting beliefs that are coming up for me. So, for example, one of the limiting beliefs that I had for a very long time that I do believe really was stopping me in my career early on was that because I live abroad, because I speak English as a foreign language, because I have an accent, because I have a last name that's very clearly is tied to a specific culture and specific part of the world, I had this deep belief that that is what is stopping me and that is what is always going to be stopping me in my career, because I am somehow less than everyone else, because I sound different, because I have a different background, because I have a different support system or lack thereof, because I don't have an established network to rely on, to start with, the way my peers did. And at different stages of my career and different parts of my career, there were new limiting beliefs that were coming up that unless I was very mindful of, what is the thought, what is the belief that I have deep down there that is preventing me from going after this or doing this? And we do this with our clients as well. Again, this is the number one thing that we start with. I was coaching someone just a few days ago, and it's someone who is getting really good networking meetings with really senior professionals at her target companies, but then her meetings weren't really going anywhere. So we were really diagnosing, okay, what is going on there? Like, let's really get to the bottom of this. And we looked at every single big meeting that she had, and we looked at exactly how she approached it, whether she used our framework, what were her talk tracks, what she asked at the end. And we learned that she was never asking for a very specific path forward. And when we, again, understood why, there was a limiting belief there that she would have a really good conversation, but she felt very uncomfortable asking for the next step because she felt like she needed to maybe get to learn more, to get maybe more certifications, or to kind of level up first before she can go for that next step. So once we actually got really mindful of what is the belief deep down, that's what we started working on so that now she is actually seeing it very, very differently. And now she has reflected on, wait a second, all these people are meeting with me for a reason. Wait a second, I actually have accomplished so much in my career already. And I offer you that it's not just one moment. It's not just one limiting belief. It's not just one thought that you need to work on. There's something you need to work on right now. I need to work on. And then once we get through it, then there's going to be the next level and there's going to be the next limiting belief. So it is a skill that I have developed over the last 6 years or so when I first got introduced to coaching. And it was coaching for me specifically. And that was mind blowing when I really started seeing those limiting beliefs for myself. And I started getting really mindful of them and working through them. That really helped me to move so much faster in my career and in my business. Number 4 is getting a lot of reps in. There is this belief that, you first should feel confident to do something, and that's when you can do it. So oftentimes from clients, I hear, well, I can only go for a networking meeting with someone very senior once I'm there, once I'm good at it, once I feel ready. And I always offer them that there won't be one day when you wake up and you feel like you got it, you feel like you're ready. The first few meetings, you probably will feel like you're not ready yet. You're not there yet. You're not very confident doing those meetings and leading those meetings and then asking for that path forward, like that client that I just talked about. So instead, I offer you that, and you might have heard this before, that confidence comes from competence, meaning that you first get good at something. And that's why you start feeling confident about doing it, not the other way around. And competence comes from simply reps and repetition. The reason I am so confident about outreach or networking meetings or networking events or teaching it is because I have done it thousands of times over the course of a decade. I've done thousands of cold calls. It doesn't bother me at all. Another, limiting belief that comes up for clients often is follow-ups. They've done, one message to someone they really want to talk to, a big executive. But then there is this limiting belief that if I follow up, I'm seen as, desperate or needy, and, someone at my level should not be following up. And that's very normal and that's very common. That's something we work on. But because for me personally, I have done so many of those follow-ups in my career, it doesn't something that even comes up for me, that even crosses my mind. It's just something that I would block that time for on my calendar a couple of times a week. And I would just quickly go through it because it's second nature and because I've done it so many times. Same with public speaking. The reason it's so easy for me to turn on the camera and record a video, whether it's for a client, whether it's for a podcast, whether it's me being a guest on someone's podcast, is simply because I have done hundreds, if not thousands of hours of public speaking. And that's what, with clients, for example, the first time I bring up the idea of recording a video and sending it as their outreach or part of their outreach or part of their interview process or part of their networking, they oftentimes feel like, whoa, this is not me. I cannot do this. And the first time they do it, the 2-minute video takes them 3 hours to make. But once they do 15 videos, what they actually do is they come to me and say, oh, so this happened. This is the situation. I'm thinking I'm going to record a Loom for this VP. Speaking about this, what do you think? So that's where their brain now goes, is to do this because, again, they've done it enough times. It got easy. And finally, number 5, not being afraid of failure. And I'm sure you have heard this many times that, failure is good, that, you should learn from failure. But in reality, it sucks and it hurts and we're human and it's normal. And I don't think it's inevitable that failure hurts in the moment. But what I have learned, and that kind of actually goes back to mindfulness and coaching and really learning those skills for myself, the same skills that I teach our clients now, is learning how to go from those emotions, that natural human reaction to failure, how to go from there to action very quickly. If in the past, when something didn't work out, I would marinate in that for months, probably weeks at least. Then it became days. And now it's a few hours, if that. And then we're back into action. And I really, with coaching really, and working with my coaches, I get to the point where failure, yes, it sucks in the moment, but big picture, it doesn't really bother me because I see it as this is part of the process. Failure is inevitable. I see failure, and I know this is maybe hard to believe, but I see failure as gold because it means that you're on the right track. Because in order to do something new, in order to go to that next level, in order to do something you haven't done before, i.e., get a job that pays 20% more and that is more senior that you've ever had before, to expect that there will be no adversity and no failure to get there. Or in my case right now, it can be growing my business, or we're expanding the team now. I've definitely made some big mistakes there the last 6 months, but I don't let myself sit in that and sit in those emotions that I know, speaking of mindfulness, are not serving me. So instead, I tell myself, okay, what did we learn from this? We're very much on the right track because we're trying to go to the next level and something didn't work. So we're going to learn from this. So, how quickly you can learn to move from emotions to data and reflect on, and that goes for your job search, for your interviews, for your outreach, how quickly you can move from emotions to looking at it as data. And every time a client comes to me and says, this didn't work, or, I worked so hard for this role or this interview and I didn't get it, I said, okay, you failed. Good. You're on the right track. You're on the right track to that next level. It means that you're doing everything right. And I know it's really hard to hear, but we talked about how confidence comes with competence and competence comes with reps. And reps in doing something new will always come with failure. So all of this goes hand in hand together. And again, really learning how to go from emotions to data and really learning how to embrace failure is, to me, really a sign of someone very mature, very emotionally mature, someone who is resilient, and someone who is also senior. Like when I think of a good leader, it's someone who knows how to process and move on from failure very quickly and can also guide their team through that as well. So there you have it. I have talked about some of the pieces that really have helped me over the last decade and specifically over the last 6 years get a lot more confident in myself, in my skills, in my skin, and really to continue developing this. So I hope this episode was helpful. Would love to hear from you how this resonated. As always, you can shoot me a message on Instagram. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love when you reach out and say, hey, I've been listening to the podcast. Here is what's resonating. I really, really appreciate those messages. That's it for today. I will talk to you very soon.